Welcome to today's Technopreneurs Networking event. And the topic for today is to tap grants for your business startup and expansion. I'm Andy Wee from IES INCA, which stands for Institution of Engineers Singapore Incubator Accelerator. And welcome fellow engineers, IES members, and also friends from ISCA and also engineers in the industry. So today we will be sharing with you some of the grants that you can tap for yourself, for your company, and also share this information with your business contacts. Okay. So for today's program, I will start off with an introduction to IES INCA and also the Enterprise Singapore SG Founder Grant. And then after that, I'll pass on the presentation over to Mr. Eric Tan, who will be sharing about tapping ESG MRA and EDG grants and also various other grants that you can look into. Then we'll end off with some networking community discussion where you can turn on your camera and also just share with us some of the business challenges you have or any questions on the presentation today. And today's webinar is organized by IES INCA and also supported by the resource group, which Eric comes from. So for those who are new to us, IES actually is the Institution of Engineers Singapore. It's an organization that's been around since 1966. And our mission is to advance and promote the science, art, and profession of engineering for the well-being of mankind. The vision of IES is to be the heart and voice of engineers here in Singapore and to be a national body and home for all engineers. So all engineers with diploma, degree, or even experience in the technical field can join IES as a member. Let's continue to grow engineering in Singapore together. So this is our current council, and Dr. Richard Kwok is our president. We have actually IES members. The council comprises of members from different sectors of engineering, as well as different organizations that are in the government, in the private sector, and so academia. So all these engineers come together to drive the activities in IES. Okay. And IES actually has various clusters as well and various technical committees. Some examples are the infrastructure cluster, integration cluster, smart nation cluster, manufacturing cluster. And under these technical committees, they drive progress in different areas and disciplines of engineering. Some of the oldest would be civil structural engineering, mechanical electrical engineering, and many of the newer ones are like energy technical committee, environmental and water engineering committee, Infocom, future manufacturing. So all these areas, IES members can participate to grow that particular sector that we want to develop further. Okay. So now let me jump over to IES INCA for those who are new. So IES, as you know, it's been around for a long time. We extended in 2019 to IES INCA Incubator Accelerator. Our role is to connect technology entrepreneurs, mentors, and investors in this IES venture community so that we can help to build successful and sustainable technology engineering ventures. Okay, so let me just run a short video to share with you very briefly what we do. But first, let me talk about our mission. So we want to support the science, technology, engineering ventures in engineering translation, accelerating products to market while meeting their milestones and be successful. At the end, we hope to see a vibrant engineering venture and entrepreneurship community that really can transform life through innovation and technology. Okay, now my video.
A year after Singapore achieved independence, the Institution of Engineers Singapore, IES, was established. IES plays a vital role in the growth and advancement of our young nation. IES continues to advance and promote the science, art, and profession of engineering for the well-being of all. You can always count on an engineer to come up with practical solutions. After all, that's what we do. But what about those inspiring ideas and applications that you've come up with? Marketing and commercialization, that's the unfamiliar part. And it's never been more complicated. IES INCA supports science, technology, engineering ventures in getting to market and becoming the greatest success possible. Focusing on areas of opportunity in the exciting area of deep tech. And it's never been needed more, as disruption forces the reshaping of industries. Join IES INCA as we build an exciting and innovative community, together towards the future of engineering, innovation, and enterprise.
So IES INCA, our role as linked to the largest engineering network IES, where we have 6,000 members. We help to support and network through there to help the companies to grow. And we help to harness and bring engineering talent towards creating some of these new innovative products. And lastly, IES Inca's role is also to be the hub that joins all engineering-related new ventures, linking the universities, the polys, the research institutes, and industry. So we talk to everybody and we try to share information so that we can build some of these great companies. So since we started in 2019, we have grown. We have supported 20 incubators. We have 80 plus mentors, and we have grown our investor network as well as the IES Inca community, consisting of engineers and also non-engineers to network and to grow together. Yeah. And some of our activities in the last 2 years, we have had many webinars and also before that, many meetups and also mentor networking sessions and also Technopreneur networking sessions. So where does IES Inca fit in the whole big picture? We look to engage our IES members and engineers, corporate SME spin-offs, IHL's spin-offs, and we help them in entry translation support, providing mentors and also business support training so that they will be anchored in the business knowledge, the technology knowledge, and also the business plan so that they can connect to investors, the business network, and customer markets. Besides that, we also gather with the corporates problem statements, industry problem statements, and innovation opportunities to share with our community so that you can find the area that your domain knowledge can be used to create new ventures as well. Okay, so companies who are ready for incubation, we look at them that they have completed their customer discovery and validation process. They have a venture leader, they have some resources and a clear scope. We provide the business planning support, structuring support, help them to source fundraising, and also use the experience of mentors and IES network to support them in their growth. Companies that we incubate exceed incubation when they have an executable business plan and the required funding to grow their company. Okay. So the focus areas of IES Inca is actually these 4 areas: infrastructure technology, IoT for industrial purpose and smart cities, robotics automation, and clean tech sustainability. So if you're in these 4 areas, we can incubate these companies and support you. Okay. Which kind of companies can we incubate? So complete the customer discovery validation, build MVP ready to scale up, market size revenue minimum 1 million and above, and the key team member is an IES member. So for the engineers who are not IES members, you can certainly join us and we can guide you in incubation. Okay, some of our partners in IES Inca, Enterprise Singapore, a very key one, IPI, A-Star, and also various industry groups, as well as investors and VCs. And together we form an investor network that has $12.2 million to invest in companies. Okay, so IES also linked to the ASEAN Federation of Engineering Organizations, where we have the equivalent of IES in the different ASEAN countries, where this can be help to go to market as well. Okay, for SMEs in Singapore who may need help with their transformation, we have this Dare to Transform program where we want to help Singapore SMEs in the engineering technology space to transform. So we have a panel of consultants where you can get 2 hours with them, where they can review your current business situation and also advise you where you can innovate and transform. So you can follow this link to sign up with us. Okay, now I'll move on to the SG Founder Program grant, which IES Inca is a accredited mentor partner. So we can help to support the application and I will run through the process and what the grant covers. Yeah. So we are very pleased to be extended for another year for this program. So we'll be able to continue to support companies from now till next year, April 2023. Okay. So this startup SG Founder Grant, its main objective is to support first-time entrepreneurs, and to start their business through mentorship and financial support. So Enterprise Singapore gives the grant 50K over 12 months and divided into 2 tranches. Yeah. And tranches are tied to the milestones that must be met before the second tranche to be released. Okay, so there's a 5-to-1 matching, meaning founders must put in at least 10K, then they can get this 50K over the 2 tranches. Okay, so yeah, so our role as a accredited mentor partner is to identify, assess, and recommend the startups to ESG. So our role is to work with the teams, help you to find the areas that you need help in, and areas that may be risk areas, and also to strengthen the application. And we also give an application recommendation letter where you can bring to ESG for their when you apply for this grant. Okay, so the main applicants must meet the criteria. The business idea must have strong differentiation, visible business model, good market potential, and a strong management team. Yeah. Okay, so these are actually the very, very important criteria. Okay, so startups who are interested to apply for this, you need to approach the AMPs like us. There are probably, I think, 30 AMPs out there. So any of them that fit your criteria, you can go to them. We focus mainly on the engineering technology companies. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we'll identify all the criteria, make sure you clear them, and sharpen your proposals. Okay, then we will evaluate. Then we will give you a recommendation letter, which you can take to ESG in your application, just all your documentation. And then when ESG reviews and it clears, right, usually it takes 2 to 4 weeks to clear that. Then they'll give you a letter of offer and you can start working on your business idea. Okay. Yeah, if you all have any questions, feel free to put in the channel or ask us later. Yeah. Okay, the criteria that the team needs to meet, and this one is only open to Singaporeans or permanent residents. Okay, the team must have at least 3 people, Singapore citizens or PRs, okay, who are the main applicants of the grant. 2 out of 3 must be first-time entrepreneurs, meaning you don't have any past ACRA records, have not registered for any other companies before. Yeah, the main applicants must hold at least 30% equity, and the company must have minimum 51% Singapore citizen PR shareholdings. Company must not be more than 6 months of incorporation at the point of application. You can apply even before you incorporate your company. Try to get the application registered before your 6 months is up. Yeah. Okay, the 3 main applicants must contribute meaningfully. The company must not be employed by another employer. How we check this is that you should not have CPF coming from full-time employment from other employers. Okay, at least 2 or 3 of the main applicants should be committed full-time to the company and must be key decisions to the company. Okay, there's 2 links here you can click to read on more information about this. And there's a long list of frequently asked questions you can refer to as well for this grant. Okay, so examples of milestones. Example 1, startup is trying to do a platform that enables purchase goods from overseas. Okay, so once you apply, you get the letter offer, you get a first tranche 25K. Once it clears, then you need to complete your 3 milestones, whichever milestones you set in the time frame of 1 year. Then once you submit all the documentation and information to ESG, that you have cleared these milestones, then they will disperse the second 25K. Okay, second example here, medtech startup developing a medical device for wheelchair-bound patient. Okay, so 25K upon clearing the approval. Develop first prototype, secured 3 letters of intent from hospitals, completed initial 3-month trial hospital. So those are the milestones this team has put up. And once clear, they get the next 25K. So this should happen within a 12-month period. This milestone should be accomplished within 9 to 12 months, preferably not too long. Okay, these milestones are set between the AMP and the startup company. So we also advise you what milestones to set. Usually it would be business-related milestones. Yeah, it's preferred. Yeah. Okay, I think this one we already mentioned. Some businesses are not suitable. Please do not bother to apply if you are in this kind of businesses. Okay, also have not received any funding for the same idea from other government organizations. So they don't want you to tap from multiple agencies at the same time. Okay, do check out this Startup SG Network portal where there's a lot of contacts and to startups, investors, and also incubators like ourselves. You can find help from there. And many places where you can connect with people and also pitch to various investors as well. Yeah. Okay. So what does a successful venture need? Just for your consideration, market, customers, team, USP, funding, and intellectual property. Later on, we can discuss further and use this as a starting point for some of your business ideas or questions. Engineers particularly need business knowledge. We are very strong in solving problems, but we need to build a business. You need the business knowledge, how to structure a business, mentoring and guidance in the business areas, business admin support, and how to scale, because engineering businesses are usually high capex. How do you get the funding? How do you scale? How do you make sure things are efficient when you grow your company? Okay. So we also run courses as IES INCA in these few areas. And there are 2 upcoming ones, Technopreneur for Deep Tech Ventures on the 10th of June. There's early bird discount that ends on 27th of May, sorry. And Critical Thinking for Engineers on 17th of June. There's early bird that ends on the 3rd of June. So do sign up if you're interested. The link is below here. Okay. We're also going to be having a face-to-face networking event. So all of you are welcome to join us on the next Tuesday, 31st of May at One North area where JCS Lab is hosting us. Okay, so we have Mr. Christopher Lim to share his journey from software engineer to running various enterprises and finally founding Glee3's RPA and AI company. So he also has a lot of experience in the China market. So do come and meet with all of us and network and start to build contacts. And we'll also give you some refreshments as well. Okay, so please join us for this event. You can click to register. I will send you the link later. Okay, so this is my contact. I will post it in the chat later. You can connect with me and also follow our LinkedIn and Facebook pages. And yeah, let's link up and see where we can help you. Okay, so now I will invite our mentor, our finance mentor consultant, Mr. Eric Tan, to take you through some of the details in the EDG and MRA grants, as well as various other grants. You can ask him a lot of questions later. Over to you, Eric. Thank you.
Hey, Ken, thanks, Sandy. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming today to join us for this session. All right, so let me get my slides up. Okay, just a quick check. Everyone can see, Andy, you all can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, Ken, thanks. Yep. So, so my name is Eric. All right, I'm from the resource group. Today, thanks IES INCA for inviting me today to share a little bit more about a couple of grants. So actually, in fact, in Singapore, there are actually more than 100 grants out there. Each grant has its own purposes and objective, and it funds different ways to help companies with their capability building, okay, to defray your cost of investing into your own company per se. So today we'll zoom in on 2 main grants here, which is EDG, Enterprise Development Grant, and MRA, Market Readiness Assistant, because through our interaction with some of the companies under INCA, these are the 2 grants that are most applicable to most of the company. Okay, so a little bit about the resource group. All right, so I'm the founder of the resource group. The resource group is basically a consultancy firm. Okay, so for myself, I'm a chartered accountant by training. I also work in a government VC fund before, and I'm also a certified management consultant. Okay, so these are some of the companies, just a snapshot of some of the companies that we have helped over the years to either through consultancy, in risk management, financial management, HR, business strategy, process redesign, or the other thing that we do is that we also assist our client with pure grant advisory as well. Okay, so without further ado, this is what everybody is here for. Firstly, we'll touch a little bit about EDG. On top of what information you can find online, I will try to dive a little bit deeper in terms of some of the requirement and perhaps unwritten rules. Okay, so EDG is a grant by Enterprise Singapore. For companies that's been around for some time, it used to be called CTG, and it was under Spring Singapore. So after they merged with IE Singapore, they renamed it Enterprise Development Grant. Okay, it can be found on their portal under Financial Assistance under Grants. Okay. Okay, so quickly jump into EDG. So EDG is basically a grant that is targeting to help companies to build up their core capabilities. okay, or their processes through innovation, adoption of technology or strategy. So the three key areas they are looking at here are actually core capabilities, innovation and productivity, and market access, which I will go in a little bit deeper later. Okay, so for ETG, all right, what do they fund? They mainly fund third-party costs like consultancy costs, software or hardware or equipment. All right, and in some cases, they also fund internal manpower costs that are directly involved in the project. Okay, so the difference between ETG and PSG, which most of you may have known, PSG is a grant, productivity solution grant that actually replaced a PIC after a lot of things happen. There isn't really pre-approved vendor or pre-approved solution here for each of the category. Okay, very easy to qualify for ETG. All you need is that you are a Singapore registered entity with a minimum 30% local shareholding, defined as at least 30% of your shares are held by Singaporeans or PR. If you have a holding company, they look at the indirect shareholding. Okay, so they do go all the way to the ultimate shareholding to look at the individuals, right? What is interesting is that in my life, I ever done one consultancy whereby the company is actually listed over OTC in Australia. So we still managed to prove that they're 30% local shareholding because the register of shareholders, actually majority, more than 50% are Singaporean. Okay. The other thing that is more subjective is that the Enterprise Singapore do actually try to evaluate the financial viability of the company to complete the project. Okay, to put it in simple sense, the company must either have very good cash flow position or it has good cash flow coming in from your P&L to show them that you can definitely complete the project. Okay. So zooming into core capabilities. Under core capabilities, it is very much helping companies to transform or grow by building or strengthening their core capabilities and the business foundation. Okay, so there are 5 areas that are funded under core capability under ETG. Just take note that for all these areas that are being covered here, right, they are all consultancy in nature. All right. So in other words, for example, if I were to take a consultancy project to help me to improve my HR processes, my HR capability under human capital development. Along the way, I also need to buy a HRMS. The HRMS component or the software is not funded under human capital development under ETG. Okay. And the other thing to take note is that for all these 5 areas, the consultant that you engage must be a certified consultant under Technical Reference 43 by ESG. In other words, they must either be a PMC, Practicing Management Consultant, a RMC, Registered Management Consultant, or SCMC, Singapore Certified Management Consultant, which is the certification that I have. So the 5 areas, let's talk a little bit about it. So for business strategy development, it's very much to come into your company to look at, what is the situation of your existing strategy, come out with roadmap, business framework, policies, or processes, okay, to execute and recommend how to actually implement to make sure that the company can grow. It is also suitable for companies that are looking at putting in certain framework like ESG, all right, or companies that are developing a strategy in order to do their fundraising, right? So these are things that they actually can cover. Under financial management, it's very much looking at risk management as well as financing plan or financial processes. Okay, so putting in place controls for your processes. So a lot of clients that I deliver this for, normally the clients they have been operating without a CFO or a proper accounting for many years, and as a company grow, the process did not improve. They started to realize that the process are not put in place to probably mitigate the risk that exposure they may be exposed to, or there's no proper processes in place to make sure that there are proper real-time reporting or tracking of certain financial matrices in order to do real-time decision making. Okay, so you can cover the consultant coming up with SOPs with internal controls for the processes to integrate your financial management processes to other operational processes in your company. Okay, they do not fund very executional work, very low level work like preparing accounts or drafting of legal agreements. Okay, and once again, they do not fund the software solution that may be required. So I do have clients that needed us to come in to look into their financial processes. There was this client, for example, they grew to 30 million revenue. They do food ingredient wholesale in the region. They grew to that level without having a very proper process in place and not even a proper ERP or accounting system in place. So they needed us to come in to identify the gaps, streamline their processes, plus also to put in, to execute and implement, deploy a ERP system. Okay, so that time the software we used was Microsoft Navigation. Okay, so what happens is that the software is not funded here, but what we did was that there was actually a concurrent grant that we helped them to apply. Okay, so back then there was a grant that covers ERP system like this. So for the software is funded by the other grant, and then the consultancy part is funded by this grant. The rule of thumb by the government agencies is that there should not be an overlap per se in terms of double dipping. Okay, unless they say it's okay. But for this, because there's actually a China wall between the two projects, one is for the software and one is for the consultancy, they're paying for different things. So that was actually allowed. Okay. Under strategic brand and marketing development, this is very much consultancy in nature. All right, my company do not do this. I do all the other areas, but I know a lot of associates that do this, and clients come to me for grant advisory. So basically, just to take note, very simply put, is that the government is trying to fund strategy development. In other words, the consultancy is revolving around coming up with a brand strategy or a digital marketing strategy, for example, with some market research and diagnostic and assessment. But they do not fund execution costs like the production of videos, the production of website, printing of materials, okay, photo shooting, PR campaigns, advertisement, media buy. Okay, so they do not fund all these things, right? So there are clients that come to me sometimes that, their objective is to actually do a marketing campaign. So the answer is that, right, the ESG do not fund that under EDG. For that, under pre-approved solution, you can go to PSG, Productivity Solution Grant. Introduced last year, there's a new category there called Digital Marketing Package. All right, so if you need the consultants to do that for you after they have come up, you have paid them to come up with the strategy for your branding or marketing. If they are pre-approved under PSG, you can go there. If not, then you may have to look for another company to execute the plan they came up for you. So for human capital development, very much building up your HR capability. Normally, HR processes is something that companies look at the very last. It's the very last thing that companies management look at. But as you grow bigger, especially if your headcount has exceeded 20 or more, you should really start looking at this. So I even have clients that exceeded 100 before they came to us, and when we did analysis or diagnostic, we realized that they actually didn't have a lot of processes in place. There's a lot of non-compliance with MOM regulations. Okay, and there are clients that also as with inflation, actually salary have to be revised, or rather compensation, benchmarking, benefit benchmarking, salary benchmarking should be done every 3 to 5 years. They also never do that for more than 10 years. Okay, so then they ask themselves, why is my turnover rate high? Why my people keep leaving? Why is it hard to hire people? Okay, so these are the 11 areas that human capital development covers under EDG. Okay. Okay, and then under another portion of EDG, there's also innovation and productivity. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I think somebody's mic is on. Do you mind helping me to mute yourself? Thank you. Yeah, I think it's Keith. Okay, so under EDG, there's also the category of innovation and productivity. These are the 3 areas they look at. Okay, they look at automation, process redesign, as well as product development. So for automation, it's very much looking at companies' adoption or development or customize technology to actually get the benefit of increased productivity. All right, so that you can actually do more with less or do more with less. Okay, so for this, they fund hardware and software. Okay, but for this, one of the challenge I have is also with clients is that we do have to do an evaluation whether the hardware or software is something that EDG wants to fund. They are not going to fund anything that is off the shelf. If I give a very simple example, okay, if you buy a laptop, or maybe you buy a NAS system, it does increase productivity in the company, but this is not what they're looking at. Right, or you buy a simple accounting system or HRMS, it does increase productivity, but this is not what they are looking at. The keyword here is sophisticated hardware or software. Okay, they are looking at the development or adoption of sophisticated hardware or software. In other words, this must be highly customized to your operation. It must be something that you cannot easily get off the shelf. Okay, there's a lot of judgment call and it's very subjective here. But normally when client engage me for run advisory, that's where we actually get the detail of the full scope of the hardware or software they're actually buying. And then we also look into the company's operations to see how this is actually customized and not something they can easily get off the shelf. Okay, especially if this hardware or software solutions are found on PSG. Okay, if the hardware or software, especially software solution, if they're found on PSG, okay, there is a 99% chance that it won't get funded. But having said that, it's really a case-by-case basis, so that's where our expertise comes in. Right. There is a client a couple of years ago, just before COVID. They have businesses in 5 other countries other than Singapore. Right. They needed to do a group level HRMS. So they want to track all their manpower and salary throughout all the offices in Singapore and overseas to do a centralized reporting to the CHRO. The solution on PSG cannot meet their needs because it is only able to do local. All right, and why they need this, there's a reason for that. I will not go into the details. But anyway, when they came to me, we did go to EDG and we managed to get the project approved under automation for them. Right, because it's a very, very customized solution they are looking for. It's not a simple HRMS. Okay. So take note, they do not cover operating costs or setup costs. If you're trying to just buy a machine, they don't. Normally, we are also looking at, how does that actually improve? And to improve your productivity, it means that there must also be something for comparison. All right. It will be tougher if you are doing a new product line that doesn't have a before and after comparison, because that's one of the things that we need to report and put in the proposal. Normally, it should be from level 1 to level 10 rather than level 0, because it's an entirely new product line. They may deem this as basically a setup cost in order for you to set up a new production line or a new product line. Okay. For process redesign, it is it is slightly similar to automation. It's just that for this, right, it is more consultancy focused, but it does also take into account that if you need to get certain software or hardware into the in the process of doing this, right, they do actually fund the hardware with the consultancy to do process redesign. Okay, so we have done projects like this in the past. We come in to help clients to streamline, automate, and improve the productivity within the company through process redesign. And it is also done through adoption of certain software. And this is where the software and the consultancy are actually funded hand in hand. Do take note, the consultant yet still, once again, need to be a certified consultant. Okay, so SCMC, PMC, or RMC. Product development, this is more R&D in nature. This is for you to actually do up your MVP or do up your POV, your prototype, okay, to go to market. Consultancy can also be involved, okay, in terms of IP, intellectual property consultancy, right? So once again, the consultant must be certified consultant, okay. So for this, it can also be, the consultant can also be involved in coming up with the roadmap and whatnot. Okay. So one of the things to take note is that there's a certain bar of innovation here. Okay. So it is not up to me to say what is innovative. I can only do a judgment call and evaluate based on what I think. End of the day, the decision lies with ESG whether they deem the project or the technology as innovative or not. I guess one of the advantage you can have to make it easier is that if let's say the technology you're actually or the innovation you're actually doing, it does have certain background IP, all right, that you have patented perhaps from one of the IHLs or perhaps from A-Star, for example. Okay, so in my experience, the grants that I have done, those projects actually makes it easier for us to justify the innovation portion, the innovation requirement of this section of the grant. Okay. The last area of EDG is market access. All right, so they want to help you in your M&A activities, your pilot testing and test bidding activities, and standard adoption. So for M&A, basically, they are looking at if your company is going through a expansion by acquiring new other companies. Okay, so they will actually fund the areas of consultancy in terms of like M&A strategy, okay, feasibility study or due diligence work, okay, or valuation of assets, IP, okay, estimating, doing a valuation exercise, all right, and also perhaps develop a change management plan for the proposed merger or evaluating the target's current situation, how that can be done. So once again, this is very much consultancy in nature. Consultant need to be certified. So I've done a couple of this project. What they do not fund is that they do not fund executional costs like getting lawyer to draft the contracts. All right. They do not fund any incidental costs you actually incur in the event of the acquisition process. Okay. For pilot project and test bidding, this is where you have a new product or you need to actually change your product, upgrade or amend your product for a new market overseas. So take note that for pilot and test bidding, the project can only be for overseas market. It cannot be for Singapore, right? It cannot be an identical product that you are already selling in Singapore. It must be a localized version of the product or a new product that you are trying to test market in an overseas market, like maybe Malaysia, Indonesia, or Hong Kong. All right. So for this, they do fund third-party costs like software development or certain kind of consultancy that is necessary for the product to be developed. They do also fund internal manpower, but do note that in terms of the internal manpower, they cap it at 5 headcount. So the maximum headcount they will fund is actually 5 headcount. All right. It has been some time since I assist client with this part of the grant, but I can say that previously, about 3 years ago, the last time I did this portion is that for the internal manpower, there is a salary cap. Okay, so back then the salary cap per headcount is 6,500. So they'll fund 70% up to 6,500. Okay, and then lastly, standard adoption. For your company going overseas for business growth, you may be getting certification required, like certain ISO or ESG certification. Okay, but just take note that they are looking at relevant standards for your business growth and the market. So you need to justify your business plan why you need this certification, why this is important for you to improve your competitiveness or for you to expand internationally. Right? There are certain industries, in certain countries, if you don't have certain ISO standards, maybe you're not able to sell there. So these are the kind of certification they're looking at. All right. So they do fund the assessment training and also consultancy for this. So if you're looking at consultancy, do take note that the consultancy, once again, the consultant must be certified. So for this part, unfortunately, I don't do this. Okay. Just to take note that they're not looking at very basic standards like your ISO 9001, 14001. Okay, they are looking at things that are more not so generic, but more specific to certain segment or industry. Okay, right. Okay, so this is all about ETG. Another thing to note is that I forgot to mention this. Okay, let me go back a few slides. Okay, so for ETG, right, take note that after 31st of March this year, that means 1st April onwards, the funding previously was 80% during the COVID promotion period. It has now dropped back to 70%, right? But what is interesting for everyone is that there's a SkillsFuture Enterprise credit. Okay, each company is allocated a maximum cap of $10,000 in SFEC. Okay, if you have done any projects under ETG or MRA or any other grants, they only fund you 70%. So for example, if your project is 50,000, your net cost to the company, the net cost to your company is basically 15,000, right? So SFEC, if you meet the criteria merely states that you need to have at least 3 local employees, Singaporean or PR, during the project period, right? They will fund up to 90% of the grant portion that is not supported. So in this case, they will fund 90% of the 15K. But having said that, the cap is 10K. So if your project is 50,000, they give you 70% subsidy of 35,000. Your net cost is 15,000. You can get a support of 10,000 from SFEC. But let's say your project is 20,000. All right, your 30% net cost is 6,000. They will fund 90% of that, which is 5,400. Okay, so then you have another 4,600 that is still available if you do any other projects. Okay, so for SFEC is until next year, 31st March. Okay, the next grant that are probably relevant to most of you here, especially with the COVID situation improving and all the borders starting to open up, is MRA. So this is a market readiness assistant. All right. So for MRA, until 31st March next year, okay, each SME, local SME that are going to expand overseas, can actually get funding under MRA up to a cap of $100,000 per company per market. All right, per market. In other words, if you are going to Malaysia, that's 100,000. You're going to China, that's another 100,000. Right. One of the popular questions I get here is that China is so big. What if I go to the north side and the south side? It's totally different market. Unfortunately, China is one country. They are of the view that, you know, if you successfully penetrate one of the province, you are able to learn from that, and you can probably easier for you to penetrate another segment in the different province. Okay. So for the 100K, it is capped at 100K for 70% eligible funding. Right. So in other words, you can spend up to about 140,000 to get 100,000 subsidy. Right. So the 100K is actually separated into 3 sections, which is overseas market promotion, overseas business development, and overseas market setup. So each segment have its own cap. For example, if you utilize entire 50K under overseas business development, can you utilize the 20,000 not used under overseas market promotion? Answer is no. And also, if you're going to apply in more than one segment, that means you're going to do overseas business development and overseas market setup. When you apply for the grant, is this actually one grant? Answer is no. This is 2 separate applications. Okay, it is the same grant, but it's different category, different area, different evaluation. So this is actually 2 different submission and a claim process that you have to go through. Okay, as it says here, each application is limited to 1 activity. Okay. So overseas marketing promotion, which is capped at 20,000 per market, what does it covers? It covers things like overseas marketing and PR activities. If you're going to do road shows or pop-up stores, all right, or you're going to pitch at overseas trade conferences or whatnot, or if you're participating in overseas physical, if you're going to participate in overseas physical trade fairs, just to take note, it must be a sizable enough trade fairs. Okay, it cannot be a seminar that only have 50 people or 100 people. All right. If you ask me, the rule of thumb here is that, you know, it must be a sizable enough trade fair that have at least more than 300 to 500 participants. Okay. And also, they will actually fund you in things like space rental and booth design. But in terms of space rental, it's capped at 36 square meter. So if you have a booth that is much bigger than that, they will prorate the amount. Okay. For virtual trade fairs, they do fund that, but so far we've not done any of that because they are quite stringent in looking at the virtual trade fairs and whatnot. Okay. Okay, so regarding all these fairs, they also fund third-party costs as relating to publicity. So, for example, if you get people to design and print brochures, banners, and whatnot, they do fund all this. Okay, they also fund logistics only, not for you, not for us as human, not for your trade, your staff, but rather logistics for materials or samples or your prototype. Okay. Take note that in order for them to fund the printout of the brochures or the standees and whatnot, the event name, the date, the year must be clearly printed there so that they know that this is very much used mainly for just this event. Okay, so if you have a standee that just put your company's logo and whatnot, it doesn't talk about the event's name or the dates and the year, they will not reimburse during the claim stage. The other portion for overseas, for MRA, is overseas business development. This is capped at 50,000 per market. So they do actually help in terms of business matching. So this is where you get third party, not the staff that you send over or a related company or branch that you have there, a third party to help you to identify potential partners or customers. Okay, so it can be finding licensees there, franchisees there, finding agents, distributors, resellers, joint venture partners, or customers. Okay, there must be proper documentational proof that all this has happened. Okay, I'll go to the last one first. In-market business development, this is where you get a third party, okay, to outsource the business development work in this country to them for the next 12 months. Okay, so they basically have somebody on the ground. Okay, so third party, if you send your own staff there, not counted. Okay, so third party that is based there to help you do in-market business development. They provide someone to help you to do coordination of meeting, preparing all your pitching material, coming out with a presentation, call customers, arrange for meeting, all right, to meet potential leads. Okay, so any other market entry activities that you require, okay, and also to come up with some strategy or market analysis report. Okay, this is under in-market business development. So once again, we need documentation proof that all these consultancy are done before the claim is dispersed. Even if you get approved, it will still be subjected to the claim. Okay, so the last one is basically overseas market presence, OMP. This used to be under EDG, but they moved it to MRA. What they do fund is, if you already set up a company there, and please take note for any of all these things that you're actually getting, the company you register there that you're claiming under need to be owned, the shares need to be significantly owned by the company in Singapore applying for the grant. Okay, so they fund the salary of one permanent BD staff. Okay, take note, BD staff, not admin manager, not accountant, not technician, not engineer. Okay, BD staff. But however, if your engineer there is meeting clients, doing sales, so that is more like a sales engineer, it is possible. Okay, so the permanent staff means that the person must be stationed there. Okay, because you may be seconding someone from your Singapore office and the renter of the sales office. So in other words, if you are setting up a factory and then the factory has a production line and then maybe like 10% of the factory space is used for office, they will prorate. They are not going to fund you for the entire factory rental. They are going to fund you for the portion of the factory you're using as an office. Okay, just to take note of that. If the employee is from Singapore that you second over, they will fund up to 70% or 80%. All right. If the person that is that you're actually getting funding for is not a Singaporean or PR, is a foreigner, then they only fund 60% of the salary of the foreigner. Okay, it need not be a new staff. It can be an existing staff in Singapore that you send over there, right? The last portion of MRA is overseas market setup. This is a lot more straightforward. Basically, activities, advisories, and anything you need to do in order to set up a company or business in the overseas market, right? Like trademarking, IP, search or application, getting any permits, filing, registration, incorporation, okay, drafting of some necessary agreement for you to penetrate the market, getting certain licenses, or maybe even getting a consultant to do tax structuring for you. All these are possible. So once again, deliverables, we need to prove that all this work are done. Okay. So this is a very quick summary of MRE. If you can think of any questions you want to clarify, you can ask me later. So I just end off with a few other grants. Okay, these are just bonus. I won't touch and go. At the moment right now, there's this grant called the Senior Worker Early Adopter Grant. As everyone know, Singapore is going to increase retirement age and part-time re-employment age to 65 and 70 respectively by 2030. So WSG have this grant. It is administered by SNAF and E2I, whereby if you were to increase the statutory requirement for retirement age or part-time re-employment age by 3 years. So this year is 66. Sorry, this year is 63 and 66. So if you increase to 66 and 71, all right, they can give you $5,000 per worker that is 60 years old and above this year. In other words, if the worker is turning 60, 31st of December this year, that worker is still eligible for the 5,000. Okay. For this grant, the deliverables is that you must show proof and proper documentation that these are done after they approve the grant. This grant, this is actually the second round. The first round, they give up to 7,500, and within 7-8 months, the 40 million allocated was fully utilized. So they have a second period that they launched this again this year. All right, mid of last year, sorry. Actually, by right, I was expecting that the money will run out by end of last year, but apparently there is still money around. So if this is a grant that you're interested in, you have a lot of old people in your company, I guess this is worth exploring. Okay. Okay, so the other thing you can also look at the WSG is that, right, they have actually a lot of program initiative here for you to upskill your workers as well as also to hire new workers, okay, new talent. Okay, so CCP, in the past it used to be called PCP. So there's a career conversion program now for individuals and for companies. Okay, so you can get salary support depending on the age of the worker. So below 40 years old, set up to 70% per month. Above 40 years old, up to, okay, not necessary, you can cap it, up to 90% per month. Okay. In terms of how many months, depends on which program you go for and the scope of work and the JD of the worker. It can be anything from 3 months to 6 months to 12 months even. Okay, so the 3 modes of CCP here are place and train, attach and train, and redeployment or job redesign. This is for existing staff going through basically job redesign. Okay, so to find out more, you can go to the website, WSG website, to take a look, or you can contact me after this, right? So there's really a lot of grants in Singapore. IMD also have a lot of grants. SCB also have their grants. This is if you're in the travel industry or your engineering company sells to travel industry customers. Okay, even NEA also have grant. Okay, so this is just to touch base on all the potential grants in Singapore, right? So I will leave everyone here with a last word is that revenue is not a grant is not a revenue source. Okay. Do not see the grants as a way of making money. Okay, it is actually there to help to defer your cost of investment into your own business and build up your capability in your business. Okay, all the grants you have to spend money, and they fund only like 70%, maximum 90% of the money that you have to spend. Having said that, with the exception of the Senior Worker Early Adopter Grant, but technically you're still spending salary, but it's something you have to spend anyway, right? So do not see grant as a revenue. Okay, you only go after it if, let's say, it can really help you to improve your business and it makes sense. All right, I have seen companies that thinks that because of grant, certain solutions are cheap, they go for it, but it became white elephant. Okay, these are real case scenario I've seen. Okay, so thank you. Right, my name is Eric, and my contact detail is on the first and last slide if you need to contact me. So that's all for me. Yep.